Welcome, everyone. In today's explainer, we're unpacking a really fascinating piece of source material. It's essentially an incredibly detailed blueprint specifically designed to generate the ultimate 2026 cybersecurity masterclass on malware analysis. We're not just glancing at a basic curriculum here, we're literally deconstructing the architectural framework required to build this thing from the ground up. The source lays out a highly rigorous 27-point requirement list for just a single 30 to 60-minute session. So, let's break down exactly what it takes to construct a premium, high-level lesson like this. Okay, let's dive into this. Right out of the gate, the source material establishes a pretty formidable, multidisciplinary persona for the instructor. It doesn't just ask for a regular teacher. It demands the mindset of a senior cybersecurity engineer, an ethical hacker, a SOC analyst, a pen tester, a digital forensics expert, a cloud security architect, and a malware analyst. Oh, and all of that rolled into one person with over 20 years of experience. This is absolutely crucial because it sets the bar for the entire blueprint. The lesson can't just be abstract theory. It's got to be infused with the gritty reality and battle-tested wisdom that only a 2-decade veteran of the cyber warfare trenches would actually possess. Now, to truly understand this blueprint, we've got to see exactly where it fits into the bigger picture. The source visualizes this specific malware analysis lesson as a critical turning point within a massive beginner to freelance professional course timeline. You see, this isn't day one. It's a 30-day intensive program, and we are zooming all the way in on week 4, specifically day 23. By the time a student actually reaches this point, they're already deep into the professional cybersecurity phase. So the architecture of this particular lesson really has to bridge the gap between that foundational knowledge and highly advanced professional application. To unpack this massive 27-point list of requirements demanded by the source, we've structured our explainer today into 5 key areas. We're going to start with the Masterclass blueprint strategy itself, then examine the core technical theory requirements. After that, we'll look at building a cybersecurity career, touch on AI and future trends, and finally, wrap things up with a rigorous assessment and projects required. All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the ultimate Masterclass blueprint. What's really interesting here is the delicate balancing act the blueprint demands from the instructor. On one hand, the source explicitly requires that everything be explained in very simple English so beginners can understand. But simultaneously, on the exact same token, it demands that the lesson be detailed enough to produce a professional educational production. Talk about the ultimate educational challenge, right? The architecture of this lesson literally has to strip away all that confusing jargon so an absolute novice doesn't get left behind, while at the exact same time injecting enough high-level depth to make it a premium 30 to 60-minute production worthy of a professional platform. It's a total tightrope walk between complete accessibility and uncompromising expertise. Moving along, we have Section 2, Core Technical Theory Requirements. Look at the extensive technical requirements outlined for this piece. The source doesn't just want a boring lecture, it demands a full, multimodal learning experience. The blueprint mandates starting with complete theory, but then immediately grounding it with real-world examples, visual explanations, and diagrams. And here's where it gets really intense. Keep in mind, this is all supposed to happen in under an hour. The theoretical learning must instantly transition into a practical demonstration, which is then followed by a live lab. So the student watches the instructor dismantle malicious code live and then immediately has to do it themselves. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how the blueprint forces students to learn the actual, gritty, professional reality. Because, it's not enough to just know how a piece of malware functions in a vacuum. The curriculum demands the inclusion of industry best practices, security tips, and importantly, the common mistakes that rookies always seem to make in the field. But the real standout requirement for me here is professional workflow. The blueprint explicitly ensures that the student isn't just learning isolated concepts. Instead, they are adopting the exact step-by-step operational procedures that a real professional SOC analyst or digital forensics expert uses on the job every single day. Which brings us nicely to Section 3, Building a Cybersecurity Career. The sheer breadth of industry standards covered in just this one lesson is staggering. The blueprint requires the instructor to map the malware analysis concepts directly to major industry certifications. It specifically demands the integration of certification knowledge for the CEH, Security Plus, PNPT, OSCP, and even the CSISP. By weaving these specific benchmarks into a single lesson, the architecture ensures the student is passively accumulating the exact knowledge they'll need to pass the industry's most respected gateway exams down the line. But it goes way beyond just certifications. The lesson actually has to include highly practical, almost survival-level career tools. Look at these requirements. The source dictates the inclusion of specific interview questions that the student is highly likely to face when applying for a malware analysis role. It also demands a freelancer perspective and client project examples, which perfectly caters to today's gig economy. It even requires transparent salary information and a structured career roadmap. The crucial takeaway here is that this masterclass blueprint isn't just building a student's brain. It's actively building their resume, their interview skills, and their financial expectations for the real world. Next up, we have Section 4, AI and Future Trends. To truly qualify as a 2026 masterclass, the source is super clear. The lesson cannot rely on outdated historical data. It explicitly mandates the inclusion of the latest cyber attacks to keep the content hyper-relevant to today's actual threat landscape. Furthermore, it specifically requires the integration of AI tools related to this topic. Let's face it, an analyst in 2026 is absolutely going to be using artificial intelligence to reverse engineer and sandbox malware, and the curriculum demands that this modern reality be taught. Finally, it requires a discussion on the future scope, forcing that 20-year veteran instructor to forecast exactly where the industry is heading. It's all about preparing the student for the threats of tomorrow, not just today. And finally, Section 5, Rigorous Assessment and Projects. Let's move to and see how this builds, because the source outlines this escalating assessment funnel that is designed to rigorously test the student. It starts off relatively simple, with standard homework just to reinforce the day's concepts, but that is immediately followed by a robust 20-question quiz, and it definitely doesn't stop at multiple choice. The student then has to complete a mini project applying their new skills in a carefully contained scenario. Finally, the ultimate verification of their learning is the full project, where they have to synthesize every single thing they've learned into one comprehensive task. It is a grueling, multi-layered verification process, for sure. To neatly tie a bow on this intense 30 to 60-minute premium experience, the blueprint requires a highly professional wrap-up. The instructor is tasked with providing a clean, comprehensive summary to really lock in the key takeaways of the session. Additionally, the source mandates the inclusion of cited references. This is so important because it ensures that the lesson remains scientifically and technically grounded, providing the newly minted freelance professional with the exact documentation they need to continue their own research long after the video ends. So, we've walked through the architecture of this incredibly dense lesson plan today. From blending beginner simplicity with 20-year veteran expertise to live labs, career mapping, and an escalating project funnel, the sheer density of this masterclass blueprint is just astounding. But it leaves us with a really compelling thought to end on today. As malicious code becomes more sophisticated and artificial intelligence continues to rapidly evolve the global threat landscape, is a rigorous, demanding 27-point educational framework like this one no longer just a nice-to-have option, but the absolute necessary key to surviving the cyber threats of 2026 and beyond? It's definitely something to think about as you consider the future of IT education. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.